Oh, I'm recording. Sorry, I just was jamming out for a second to this like A+ MIDI music for the DeFi Kingdoms entrance. So, what's up? This is Heisenberg, aka Jordan Cairns. I have decided to focus all my video efforts for the next little while on DeFi Kingdoms. I was experimenting with content creation. Some cryptocurrency portfolio analytics was one of my videos, and the other was me explaining why I was so bullish on DeFi Kingdoms. The DeFi Kingdoms video got about 10 times the views that the other one did, and I noticed when I looked at the analytics that the YouTube algorithm was aggressively pushing my first video ever on DeFi Kingdoms. So that shows me that there's probably a higher demand for DeFi Kingdoms content relative to the supply. So I thought, hey, this is the project that I've invested the most in. You can probably see my locked jewel over there is pretty high. So I've got a lot invested into this project, and I figured make some more content. So up until very recently, I've been entirely focused on the decentralized exchange in the gardens, trying to make some of that sweet APR, and I had pretty little interest in the game. My plan was to wait until gardening and mining was released, and then do a little analytics to see if it was a no-brainer for me to buy a hero given the amount of locked jewel and exposure to the gardens that I have. So decided to jump the gun a little bit earlier than my initial plan because the details of mining isn't really released. Plus the FOMO, the mania of Jewel with the price going to the universe through the universe up into all the moons of the Jupiter got me just too obsessed about the game. So I had to play it and decided to ape in without doing too much research. Just get some heroes, start mining, start gardening, and see what I learned in the process. So this video is what I've discovered first from aping, like just pure gambling. I wasn't really paying too much attention to the prices. I'll explain what emotional triggers got set off that made me make some bad decisions. And then I did some analytics afterwards, and I have some conclusions that I wanted to share that you might be interested in if you are planning to garden and have a substantial amount of investment into one of the liquidity pools. So the first thing I decided to get into and research was gardening. I saw this equation here in the white papers that the earn rate is dependent upon the reward pool times the pool allocation times the LP owned. And that means the more money that you have in the gardens, the better you will be able to earn from a gardener. And I figured that I probably have a higher LP than the average person in the game by a lot. So they would they would balance the class such that at least the top 10% of LP providers would get benefit out of using the gardener. Otherwise the gardener is just useless. So I figured it's probably profitable for me to buy a gardener without doing too much research. Plus, I wanted to just get in there. So here is my heroes that I bought initially. The first hero I bought was Wuckus Mossflower, who's a priest knight, and she's I don't know, she's pretty hot, to be honest. Like I might name my firstborn daughter after her, just in respects to like first hero that I got in DeFi Kingdoms. Like Wuckus is kind of, I don't know, something like bring the mother frickin' Wuckus, or like a Wookiee or something, just kind of cuddly. I like it. So Wuckus was my first hero. Gon Stedman was my second one, who is my miner that I'll talk about at the end of the video. And Kalishi Timber Screamer was the third one. The Timber Screamer is it screams like a screaming tree or something, which I thought was pretty badass. But the reason I got Kalishi was I did some math on Wuckus and realized that he's probably gonna break even for his cost after like 4 or 5 months or so, which is about what I'm gonna be in the gardens. But he's only in the gardens for like 4 hours, so there's all this extra untapped potential. And I decided, okay, I don't really want to do the research and figure out which hero is the best. So I'm going to get like the next level up in rarity and then compare the two, not knowing that there were all sorts of stats I could have done in advance. And I ended up paying like a stupid premium for this card. Now that I've done the math, I've realized I got totally ripped off. There's a lot. Most heroes are overcost, by the way. If you're still like unsure about what to buy, I'll talk about which ones later in the video. How to evaluate good buys later in the video. Not for resale, but for actually doing the profession. But Kalishi has a few things going for her that Walkus didn't. She is an uncommon, and she was a higher level. She had higher gardening already. She had blue to vitality, which is an on profession stat, whereas Walkus Mossflower does not have any of those fun little benefits. However, the difference in price was almost a factor of 2, like maybe, so I paid 99 jewel for Kalishi, embarrassed, and I paid I think around 50 for Walkus. So once I did the math, I realized that like Kalishi is not gonna, at least from the profession aspect, she's not gonna take out 2 times out of the LPs at all. But maybe there'll be some resale value or combat might matter a lot in the future. Overall, the summons being less, 4 to 4, 3 to 10, Gen 1, Gen 2, not that big of a difference. I think the Harmony RPC bug got me frustrated and made me just buy a hero at random with some beneficial qualities. So a little bit regretful that, but I learned some things in the process of my regret that I can now share with you that could help you avoid the pitfall that I fell into and just incinerated 30 jewel on fire. I've learned that if you are focusing on gardening, that rarity means very, very little. So I did some calculations on this Excel sheet taking this equation in the white papers right here, isolating for this part of the equation, which is a factor. It's a multiplication factor for the entire earn rate, and it only depends upon the statistics, the wisdom and vitality, and the guardian skill. And I noticed that the wisdom and vitality, the sum of them, are divided by 1200, and the guardian skill is divided by 244. So the guardian skill is way more important than an increase in wisdom and vitality. So say if you level, you on average level the wisdom and vitality stat +3 every level, the combination, and you maybe on every level you're probably, if you garden all level, you probably get 3 gardening levels over the course of an actual level, maybe 2.5. But like this is 5 times more powerful than this. So very clearly, like the guardian skill means way more than the wisdom and vitality. So putting this into my little spreadsheet, which this is the equation right here. You see we've got vitality, wisdom, and gardening highlighted. Oops. I did some comparisons for my different characters to see just how much of a deal that the vitality, wisdom, and the gardening skills make. So a level 3 that has 5 gardening skills, which is not that long, not that hard to do, is equally as effective as gardening than a level 10 that didn't focus on gardening. So they just have 1 level of that. So all those huge differences in vitality and wisdom had as much effect on as like a few weeks of gardening. So very clearly the stats don't matter nearly as much as leveling up gardening. Also, a level 100 mythic compared to a level 100 common, if they don't level their gardening skill past 50, the difference in their stats is actually not that much. So from this article here on medium.com, I learned that at level 100, mythic heroes on average have 200 more stat points than common heroes do. And when you look at how they're distributed across all stats, they don't select for your most desired stats. That means you can divide 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can divide that 200 over 8, but we now have 2 stats that are useful to us of the 8, so it's 200 over 4 effectively. So you can group them in pairs of 4. So it's 50 stat point differences per 2 stats that are useful. So I added 25 to each vitality and wisdom over a level 100 common. And I only had an 8% difference in output between a level 100 common and a level 100 mythic that have the same gardening skill. So this number actually decreases as gardening gets higher. We don't know how gardening is going to level up relative to actual levels at the higher levels yet. But right now, you level multiple levels of gardening per actual level. So this number could be astronomically small. So really, as you level up, the stats start getting dwarfed by the gardening level, and therefore, and the mythic and common and uncommon and rare have no difference between how fast you level up your gardening. I don't know if it's worth paying the premium for those premium classes, but I know it's not worth paying the premium for the different rarities. I think the different rarities have much more of effect on their ability to reproduce other high level rarities, and it might have effects on, say, combat more, because you have a lot more stats, so stats might mean more in combat. But right now it seems like the higher rarity heroes are disgustingly overpriced relative to how they perform in professions. Last thing I wanted to talk about before I summarize was the mining. So right now we only have gold mining available, and I do have a miner that I bought that was fairly cheap, that I again use the same principles that I learned from the gardening, that I make sure that I have the class align with the profession and get something as cheap as possible. I wanted to buy now 1 hero, even though I think 6 can go simultaneously in the mine. I wanted to buy 1 just in case, once they release the algorithm for the mining, if it was really advantageous to have some miners, I wanted to make sure I got 1 while the price was good. The price of the miner that I got was not too high above the floor for totally mismatched synergy that I can't go too wrong getting this miner now. So what I'm doing now, even though I'm making like $1 per 4-hour requesting for the miner, and I'm making like $6, $8 for the gardener, that I'm trying to just level up my gardener to get his mining skill high once they drop the real quest. And if that is a percentage of the lock jewel, I'm going to get like 6 miners ASAP. So I'm sort of hedging the bets to how what'll happen if miners dramatically increase in price once they release it. I don't think they will, but let's just, I don't know. I wanted the miner. Plus he was cool. He's like, what's his name again? Is Gon Stedman. So it doesn't show here. It's Gon Stedman. I like that name. I like these names. So you know what? I'm gonna spend $1,000 on a cool little NFT named Gon Stedman. That might make me a little bit of money. So that's what's part of the fun about this game. What I've learned about the game is that it's still very, very early in development. The game itself, if you couldn't make any money from it, is like pretty terrible. And Harmony has all sorts of issues. Like there's that RPC bug in the tavern. There's just delays that are happening. It's clear that Harmony can't really handle DeFi Kingdoms very well. But it's still fun to explore those worlds. And I have a lot of faith that it's going to get better. So I'm still having a good time. So that's really what matters. Yeah. Making millions is overrated. It's more about reliving my childhood in 8-bit graphics. I think that's more important. Well, children, now it's time to say goodbye to all our family. DEFI Kingdoms on Harmony. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Follow me at Heisenberg on Twitter with a 3 instead of the final E because I'm elite. And please give me the feedback, what you thought about this video. If you didn't like it, don't. But if you did like it, I want to know if I should keep making more. So seeing my subscriber number going up, my views going up, and my follows going up will just encourage me to make more videos. So if you like this, I'm going to drop some more alpha on y'all in the future. Peace out.